Hey,
Hey.
how come you always get the comfortable spot?
Oh, I got here first.
Where's my tree?
Okay, we're in Nebraska for whitetail, and it's the last part of October. Area has changed quite a bit over the years, so we're kind of having to start from scratch. So we got here at midday, so it wouldn't interfere with the morning and evening movement to scout this place out and do what we need to do. So the property back this way is not huntable, but it has a huge bedding area. It's a huge woodlot. It goes for probably 3/4 of a mile. But we use it to our advantage because there's a lot of bucks that bed in there that we know come onto this piece of the property on this side where we can hunt in the corn and the creek drainages. So we're just trying to figure out where they're crossing right now. There's an obvious crossing that they're using. They're walking the fence line. They won't jump in the creek, but they walk the fence line to a shallow area. They'll jump there where it's easier for them, walk the edge back down this way and cross over into the corn to walk the corn edge between the corn and the tree cover in the creek on their travel route. This is one of the trails that leads in on our side, and it just basically goes right off the embankment here, right over to the corn edge, and follows the corn between the trees and the creek. This is what we're looking for. A little bigger tree, indicating a possibility of maybe a little bigger buck.
What's it?
Ow! He grabbed the same sticker.
I'll get back at you.
Well, coming out here to hunt whitetail for the first time, one never really knows what to expect. And what I do know is after setting up a few tree stands and taking several bucks from them in California, Nevada, they're generally pretty easy to find where the deer are going through, making their trails. And wherever they intersect, that's where I set up. I expected to find that here with the whitetail. Unfortunately, it wasn't something that I found. Very few trails are really beat into the ground. The grass is not knocked down. About the only place you see the sign is along the riverbeds. Man, a guy gets hungry out here. Well, another thing I expected is once I saw some deer coming by the tree stand, that they would be real regular at doing it. I've always heard you can set your clock or your watch by a whitetail, that you can pattern them. And they're just not, I guess they're just not into the rut at all. The bucks, even though a couple came by, they just aren't coming by with any regularity, and they're just not in close enough. Don't seem that interested in rattling, and they just don't seem that interested in putting the estrus spray out. Kind of surprised me there. You had something you wanted to ask me?
Before it turns into another blooper.
No, that
What
is
was
a
that
blooper. You were going to ask me, you got something you want to say?
Oh. Did you have something you'd like to say, Rodney?
No.
You know, our families, and probably yours as well, often ask the question, what in the world do you guys get out of going someplace in November when it's cold and nasty and sit in a tree stand to wait for some stupid deer?
I have the answer.
You do?
Stickers. Right here, living proof.
No, that's not the answer. But as bow hunters, we know the answer to that question, because being out here in God's creation is what it's all about. For us, the enjoyment of being able to get up on a cold, crisp November morning and just see the world wake up around us while we're sitting in a tree stand with a perfect panorama view in a ringside seat, just to see the glory of all that God has created for us. Raccoons, squirrels, birds chirping, owls hooting, coyotes coming by.
And one deer.
And one deer. He reminded me of that. And for Rodney and I, just like most of you, the enjoyment comes from just being out here. It's all about the adventure. Each and every time we're able to take our bows and get into country like this and hunt a big buck and enjoy God's creation, it's a blessing, and we should be grateful for that blessing. Regardless of whether we bring home that big buster buck or not, and most times, at least for us, it's not. But again, being out here is such a blessing, and for that we are truly grateful.
Well, just to kind of sum things up a little bit for you. In the 6 days we've hunted, between Ron and I, we've seen 12 different deer. Saw one little basket size 5-point. Saw a couple other bucks that were further out and would never come in close. And those bucks they stayed in the brush enough we really couldn't tell what they were. They were a little bit wider, definitely heavier, way heavier bucks. Total saw about 12 deer altogether, and that was it. 6 days between the two of us. So we were expecting a little bit more than that, of course.
As bow hunters, we're faced with legal and acceptable choices in the field all the time. but the final decision is ultimately up to us. The same is true in our walk with God. Our choices may be acceptable by the world's standards, but we're held to a higher precept.
You had something you wanted to ask me?
Before it turns into another blooper.
No, that
What
is
was
a
that
blooper. You were going to ask me, you got something you want to say?
Did you have something you'd like to say, Rodney?
No.
Cut.
And with a traditional equipment like we do, even though you expect to get something every time, the reality of all of that is, it just doesn't always happen. Well, that's why we like hunting. We enjoy shooting arrows around, but at the same time we just like being out here, having time in God's creation, time to reflect on the Word, time to just listen to what God's to tell us.
You should always acknowledge the Creator for your health, your finances, your family, just for everything that we've got, because without Him, we would have nothing. We do not take it for granted, Lord. We do not take our health for granted, our finances for granted, or our families for granted that make it possible for us to come out here and enjoy these times in the woods.
Bend bow, bend bow, bend bow. Bend bow, bend bow, bend bow. I can hear the mountains calling, I can feel the cool breeze blowing, I can see the leaves are turning on the trees. It's time to head out where the air's crystal clear and the sounds of nature set my soul